Sexual Harassment is the second episode of the second season of The Office, and I have to say I rather enjoyed this one, but I also have a question about something Michael says towards the end. I had to rewind it 4 times. I even listened to it on 0.5 speed, and I'm confused by what I'm hearing. So I will mention that at the end, but I'd love for somebody to tell me what's going on if they have any insight into this. I will go through things chronologically and share some thoughts, so there will of course be spoilers from now as I talk about the episode. And a sitcom, mentioning a sitcom, my mind is blown because Michael unreasonably refers to himself as Chandler and Joey. He calls Pam Rachel, and Dwight is Kramer, who I believe is from Seinfeld. I'm not the biggest fan of Seinfeld, but there's time for me to get into that one yet. We then have a character arriving who really helps to make Michael look less annoying. And I'll explain what I mean by that. This character is Todd Packer. He's played by David Koechner, and he is so irritating and so offensive that Michael looks tame. In fact, Michael tried to rebut some of the things he was saying, some of the rather offensive things. And I say this because Michael started off, for me at least, as an exceptionally irritating character. And that's actually dwindled quite a bit to the point where I don't really find him irritating anymore, which is obviously a really nice position to be in. But then Todd Packer comes along. He makes me realise how much worse it could actually be. Instantly a very unlikable character, but it did wonderful things for raising Michael's character. We then find out that Pam's mother is coming to visit, which I think is very strange. I've never heard of anybody's parents coming to visit them at work in the office. I'm sure it happens, but it's something that I find a little bit peculiar. And then Toby arrives. And Toby is a character played by Paul Lieberstein, and he's from HR, and he wants to do, corporate had asked them to do a 5-minute review of the company's sexual harassment policy. And he's talking to everybody. It seems dry, but seems to be going well enough. And then Michael comes in with a blow-up doll. And they're talking about workplace relationships and how it's best to avoid them. And Phyllis asks, all relationships, even a one-night stand? And Jim's facial expression is amazing because he does this very brief look into the camera with just the best facial expression. Really, really made me laugh. He also does a bit to the camera with the blow-up doll as well, which is a little awkward, but nevertheless, it worked well enough. And then Dwight, in a hushed tone, asks Toby where part of the female anatomy is. And Toby's face as well was absolutely brilliant. I wasn't expecting it, and I found it to be pretty funny. Then watch a video about scenarios that cross the line. I would have liked to have seen a bit more of those. I think we could have got a bit more comedy out of those videos. Instead, the direction they took is that they knew one of the girls in the video, and I didn't find that interesting. I would have rather have seen these scenarios being played out, because corporate training videos are always so cheesy and so corny that they're just so funny. They're engaging for the reasons they probably didn't mean, unless they know that by making them corny and cheesy they might be engaging. So I think they could have done a little bit more with that, and I definitely think they could have changed the comedy there. I think that would have been funnier than what they did do. But also Pam's mother visiting, I don't know, it felt random to me. I would never invite a parent to come and meet me in my place of work. I just find that a bit strange. So they could have used some time there as well. But nevertheless, Pam's mother does arrive in a little bit. I'll talk about that when we get there. But meanwhile, Michael has to reveal to everybody he's no longer allowed to be their friend. He has to be their boss, and he's not allowed to make inappropriate jokes, including that's what she said jokes. And Jim sets Michael up and says 3 or 4 things back to back, to which Michael would usually reply, that's what she said. And Jim's first comment, I didn't twig what he was doing. And then I did with the second and third, and I think there might have been a 4th one. Very well written. Jim was brilliant in this. I just think Jim's facial expressions, the way he responds to things, I rather like quite a lot. And I didn't care for Jim at all in the beginning. But that is changing. And I'm really pleased about that. Pam, I'm still on the fence with. Pam was one of the characters I didn't care for to begin with. I just found her kind of boring. I didn't dislike her. But I don't necessarily think she's boring now, but I still wouldn't say I like her. So I'm sure that will change over time. But the point there is that Michael is less annoying. I like Jim now. So things were moving in a positive direction. As I said, Pam's mother does arrive. She's played by Shannon Cochran. She's only in it for a couple of minutes. And she does ask Pam, also in a hushed tone, which one's Jim? And we can see Jim having a little smile on his face, which is very sweet. And then we get to the very end. And this is the bit that confused me. Michael is talking, he's for the documentary or mockumentary, and he's saying whatever he's saying, and he says, well, what I think he was meant to say is, even though we're still a family here at Dunder Mifflin, families grow. But he doesn't. He says Dunder Riffling. And the first time I heard it, I thought I must have just misheard it. I rewound it 2 more times and I heard Riffling, not Miffling again. And then I slowed it down to 0.5 speed. And he does. He absolutely says Dunder Riffling, not Miffling. And I wonder if it's one of those things. I have heard of actors fluffing their lines on purpose as a bet to see what they can get past editing, which sounds like a right pain in the butt if you're the editing and you're realising after you've finished that somebody's intentionally fluffed their lines. But I could guess that that's what happened there. It seems very unlikely that he would call them Dunder Riffling for any other reason. But if anybody has any context on that, please feel free to let me know. I doubt it matters, but this is the version on Amazon Prime. But I was very confused by that. So if anybody does have any more information on why he pronounced it Dunder Riffling, I'd love to know. I'm making too much of a big deal out of this, I realise. But I'm just curious. It's a good episode. I really enjoyed it. As soon as I saw the title of Sexual Harassment, I thought it's either going to be really cringy or it's going to be really funny. And there are a couple of cringe moments, but for the most part, I found it to be really entertaining, really enjoyable, and honestly, it's one of my favourites so far. I'm starting to think of myself as a fan of The Office. I'm not quite there yet, but I think a couple more episodes, as long as the next few episodes are quite good, then I might be able to sit here and say, much to my surprise, I'm a fan of The Office. But we'll see how that goes. Looking forward to watching the next episode. Sexual Harassment was definitely pretty interesting.